For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Taryn Hadfield. How's it going today, Taryn?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I almost called you Taryn Seattle, and I know you're trying to, because that's how I was introduced to you. And so it's that weird thing where it's like, how I'm introduced is how I know you. So
totally.
But anyways, excited to have you on. This is your first podcast with us. I think we've kind of come to the consensus of we did some live streaming together back at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's been a long road since then.
Yes. Crazy long road.
Yeah. Especially on your end, because you just released a new album.
Yes.
Or technically your debut album, right?
First album ever. So
Nice. So we'll get into that here in a little bit, and we'll just kind of talk about that. But for everybody that's just meeting you for the first time, or anybody listening that's just getting to hear about you for the first time, what's kind of your background into music, stuff of that nature?
Yeah. So background into music. So should I talk about like how I got into music, or maybe like more of an introduction about who I am?
Let's go with the introduction to who you are, because then we'll go into...
Then we'll dive in.
Yeah, we'll dive in.
Gotcha. So my name's Taryn Hadfield. I go by Taryn Seattle on Twitch. But just recently, I'm an artist signed to Next Music Company, which is a small indie label kind of based out of Boise, but also Seattle. And then this last year, I recorded my first ever album called Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And it's now just got released on Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, all the major platforms. I guess we'll get into that later. But I play electric guitar, mandolin. I've dabbled in some banjo now, so that's been fun. And most of the music that I play, I write my own songs, and most of the music I play, I could describe it as indie, retro rock, I would guess, something of that nature. And then I also stream on Twitch about 3 to 4 times a week, and I've been live streaming on that platform for about 2 years. Okay,
so you were streaming when you'd just gotten started on Twitch when we first met back in March, April of 2020.
Yes. Yeah, I had just started. Actually, my first ever stream was January of 2020. Mm-hmm. And then I felt really awkward, and I never wanted to do it again. But then, the pandemic hit, and everyone started streaming on like Facebook and then Instagram. And so then I just kind of went from there and was like, I should just keep doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I could tell when we first met, because you were a part of our, I don't even remember what we called it, but it was like a virtual live concert, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, like that first week or something. I was overly ambitious back then. And you were one of the few that already seemed to have the streaming thing down pat, or at least as far as making sure your audio was good.
I knew my audio. I knew how to work my audio, which I feel like was like the bar was low back then. Like, I know how to get on a camera. I know how to do audio. I think I'm good.
For sure. And back then when I met you, you were still living in Boise. So over the last year and a half since it's been, you ended up moving to Seattle. How long ago did you end up moving?
So I moved to Seattle back in early November. So I've really only been here for like 3 months, or no, not even that, like 2 months, almost 3 months. It's been a weird shift. I grew up in Boise, and that's where I've always been from. So it's strange to go from that to living in Seattle, a place where there's like so much history with music and so many musicians, so many recording studios. It's definitely changed since the pandemic, that's for sure. Like definitely not as many things open. Things are starting to get back, but yeah, but it's been weird. I grew up in Idaho pretty much since I was 8, and so moving to an entirely new city has been quite the shift.
Yeah, I imagine so. It's not easy, especially if it's like the first big move you made.
Yeah.
Whereas I've made several of those moves and it's still not that easy. Like, still not that easy, but
no,
you get used to it. So
yeah.
Cool. So you're a multi-instrumentalist. You guitar, banjo, mandolin. You know, you kind of dabble in a lot of the stringed instruments. Who originally introduced you to music or the idea of playing music?
Yeah. So that story goes back to when I was 10 years old and it was my birthday. And so around this time, my mom had a bunch of really great CDs in the house growing up. So she had Alanis Morissette, Counting Crows, Norah Jones at the time as well. And so I kind of got in this habit of, I was really obsessed with music when I was young, just listening to it and singing along. And so I'd always be like huddled up in my room, singing along to the CDs, knowing every word. And it was around that time, like my parents noticed me doing that a lot, and no one in my family did music, like literally no one. My sister played violin and orchestra, so it was a very new thing. But my dad, for my birthday, bought me a guitar. And it came in this big box. I thought it was going to be a keyboard. And then when I opened it and it was a guitar, I was like, huh, okay. Because I originally really wanted to play piano. I never told my parents that, but I was like, I'll give this guitar thing a shot. And so he got me into lessons because for a while it just sat there. And as a kid, you know, if you're not super self-motivated or some crazy prodigy, like it didn't come easily. So my dad was like, I'm going to get you in lessons and we'll just see how it goes. And I ended up taking lessons for about all the way from when I was 10 to basically up even halfway through college. I was taking lessons from the same guy. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. It's all because of my dad.
Nice. That's awesome. And it explains why your dad pretty regularly appears in your streams.
Yes. Yeah, him and my mom both.
Yeah, that's true. I do. Now that you do mention it, you do mention your mom a lot.
Yeah. So
that's really cool. So as you were kind of going through that journey of learning how to play guitar,
yeah.
Who are some of the musicians that you were listening to?
Yeah.
Like I know you brought up like Alanis Morissette and stuff like that, but like once you started
learning,
yeah.
Yeah. So I had a pretty cool guitar teacher growing up, and he basically just, once we had learned the basics, basically told me like, bring in a CD of your favorite artists and we'll just learn whatever. And so I was into a big smattering of different things. So we learned Led Zeppelin, we learned some Fleetwood Mac, we learned a lot of the stuff I learned was mainly stuff my parents had raised me listening to. So it was, you know, their favorite bands like Jack Johnson, and, you know, Coldplay. We learned a lot of Coldplay songs. And so it was a big smattering, but it was mainly based on, you know, what my family had raised me listening to. So I could show up for my dad and tell him like, hey, I learned this song. Like, and so it was honestly a lot of classic rock, 70s rock, lot of rock. And so that ended up being most of my influences in the guitars in the studio, just learning how to play.
Nice. And then where does like the mandolin and the banjo, where's that all kind of start coming into play?
So the banjo, the mandolin, so I had been playing guitar for, you know, a while at that point. And then it was about, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, my dad, it's always my dad, it's so funny. He found a mandolin on Craigslist. And at the time I had moved back from college and I had very little to do. And my parents were like, she needs to get more to do with her free time. And so my dad found this mandolin on Craigslist and he said, you want to go get it? And so we drove out to the lady who had it, and her house was like way out in the middle of nowhere, and we picked it up. And I don't know, it was just always an instrument that really intrigued me. And so I started playing that, and I grew to really love it. And then the banjo, actually, my boyfriend got it for me for my birthday because he he was like, oh, well, if you're good at mandolin, that must mean you're probably going to be good at banjo. And so he had been scoping like Craigslist, or maybe it was Facebook Marketplace, and found a used one that was like all black, looked super cool, and then it was in the same tuning as the mandolin. So that it was a super easy transition. So it's basically like, because apparently banjo, you can have it in that open tuning, or you can have it in the mandolin tuning, which apparently is the Irish tuning. And so I've kind of been dabbling with that for like a couple months. And so I'm by no means great at either of those two instruments, like definitely more comfortable with guitar, but it's been fun for songwriting and to just have something different to play. So,
because I remember when you were on both of our live streams that we did in 2020. You broke out the mandolin, and I thought that was really cool.
It was fun.
Just because not a lot of solo musicians break out the mandolin. So it's kind of a little, it's rare and it's fun. And I think I definitely noticed too when I was playing gigs, people would kind of light up when they saw it pulled out, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna write more and learn more on this instrument. So but just because it's what, I don't know, like I don't know why it is, why people kind of are drawn more to that instrument. I don't know if it's because it's different or if it sounds different. I don't know. So questions to be asked and
questions
answered.
To ponder.
Yes. And then of course you've got the new star of your streams is the Mandocaster.
The Mandocaster, yes, it's hanging up back there. Yeah.
And that you've only had that for like a couple months, right? Or...
Yeah, I maybe it was a month, maybe it's been a year. Maybe it's probably been, no, it's been less than a year. I bought it this last year, but I found it at an old music store because I love going to independent music stores because they have the greatest like used stuff, and so I saw that sitting on a wall, and I asked the guy, I was like, is that a mandolin? Because it looks weird. It looks like a tiny baby electric guitar, but it has 5 strings. Yeah. And so I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's a Mandocaster. And this guy, it's called, the store's called 12th Fret Music in Boise, and it's just full of the funnest stuff. And the guy who owns it is awesome. And he always loves to geek out with me. And so he's like, you got to play it. And so he got it out for me and like plugged it in. I really fell in love with it very, very fast. Yeah. It's just cool instrument.
All the offshoot instruments that are out there are really interesting and fun. Yeah. I went to a music festival right before the pandemic hit, and some guy was playing a bass uke.
What?
Yeah. So basically it's a ukulele, but it's an upright bass. So the whole reason he had it was because he didn't like carrying his big bass on planes, and he can't always count on the festivals or whatever that he's going to that somebody's going to let him play there upright. So he's like, I just bought this thing, and if I have to use it, I will, but I don't like using it because it's like really weird to play, just because it's so small. But he played it, and interesting stuff. So,
that is so funny. I'm gonna have to look that up later.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of ukulele instruments. Like there's a banjo uke, which is really...
I definitely want to get one of those. I'm very stuck on that's my next
big purchase.
Big purchase.
Nice. So you've been streaming for the last 2 years, and since the pandemic, you've really started working on this album that dropped last Saturday. Last Saturday?
Yes.
I'm so hard up on everybody releasing music on certain days. Yeah. And I forget nowadays it doesn't matter, because like back in the day it used to be on Tuesdays. That's when all the new music dropped. Yeah. And now it's just kind of like, nope, doesn't matter. I'm going to release it when I want. Yeah. So it's been out for just a little over a week. What was kind of the idea behind it, and how long did you back up? Let me ask this question first. How long have you been working on the album?
So I've been working on the album. So November of 2019 was when I got signed on to Next Music Company. And basically, I kind of knew I had basically written most of the songs that were probably going to be used on that album, like at least half of them already. And then obviously, so our plan was in spring of 2020, pre-pandemic times, we were going to have, because, every small label, you got to crowdfund a lot of money to even make an album, because to do it in a studio with cool musicians and to have all the budget to do the marketing and the production, like, it's just a lot. And so when you're a new label, like, you just don't have investors and it's just iffy. And so we had a crowdfund. And so in spring, I was like, oh, we'll do a crowdfund. We'll do a live show. So I had like a venue booked. I had like musicians lined. I had the bands that were going to play with me already confirmed. And like things start getting weird like in February. Yep. And I was just like, we could still do it. Who knows? Maybe this is just a weird fluke and we'll, it'll never turn into anything. Yeah. And then COVID unleashed its ugly head. And it was just, the venue called me. I think it was like 3 weeks out because Idaho was like, no, we'll be fine. And then eventually, everything did shut down in Idaho. But the venue called me and was like, hey, yeah, this is not going to be a thing. And I was like, okay. And so then, I was screwed. And like, I talked to Jeff, our producer, and I was like, so what are we going to do? He's like, honestly, I have no idea. He's like, this is unprecedented. I don't know when we could get in a studio. I don't know how we're going to do a crowdfund. He's like, I know this will happen eventually. I just have no idea when. He's like, and I would hate to lead you on and tell you that we're going to have this arbitrary date. So I basically just hung tight for months, just continuously just communicating with Jeff, and was like, hey, what are we gonna do? And he's like, I don't know. And so it was just a mess. And so then finally, and during this time I just started streaming just to kill time. Like I used to play a bunch of bar gigs, and I played open mic nights, like that was my thing. And so then when all of that went away, I was like, how am I supposed to fill on my time now? And so I started streaming on Twitch. Because way back pre-pandemic, basically one of my old friends from college, he used to stream on Twitch. Part of the stream, it's called Grub Truckers.
Okay.
They're partnered on Twitch, but it's a food truck in Moscow. I swear this all connects. It's a food truck in Moscow. They live stream basically giving out food to drunk college kids.
Okay.
And they make a ton of money doing it. So he was doing that in Moscow and making a ton of money. He's like, hey, and I was telling him about the album, and I was like, I need a crowdfund for this. And he was like, well, just start streaming on Twitch. Like, I don't know, you could grow and people might give you money. Who knows? And so then that started. So I started streaming a lot more especially once the pandemic was in full swing. And then come fall of that year, we decided we were going to launch the crowdfund on Twitch. Like I started making more money doing that than any of my bar gigs in town, because Boise does okay paying musicians, especially if it's a private party, but it's not going to pay as much as Twitch and random strangers on the internet who love my stuff. So we launched a crowdfund it was mid-October, and then it was a Kickstarter campaign, so we had 60 days to raise the whole funds. We raised it in 54 days, so 6 days before the end. And then we planned, things started loosening up, especially in spring of 2021. We're like, maybe this is a sweet spot. So then we got in the studio May of 2021, did all the recording. I cashed in all my PTO, took 2 weeks off work, recorded the whole album. It was like 12-hour days. So we did recording tracks for a week, mixing for a week. And then I went home. Jeff finished up with mixing and mastering. Then we had everything all planned for marketing wise this last fall, and then finally we were able to release a story and sound video as like a single a month before, and then we released it that Saturday. So it's been a long
process,
like 2 years, like a lot of time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember when the pandemic first hit, like I was sitting at work and they're like, hey, we're closing down the office for 2 weeks. I'm like, okay. And
2 weeks.
went home, worked remote from the office. And then they're like, we don't know. Just stay home. And I'm like,
we don't know when you're coming back. No idea. Like,
yep, pretty much. And then like when I knew it was for real, was when South by got canceled, because that was like in 2020. That was my first year here in Texas, And I had a bunch of musician friends that were going to be traveling right through Waco, where I live, going to Austin. I was like, oh, hey, when you come through, stop by.
Yeah.
We'll do podcast, we'll do something. Oh, yeah, that sounds great. One by one, over the course of a week, it was like,
God.
not coming. And I'm like, cool. And then I started streaming on Zoom and doing the live podcast that way.
Nice.
So I can't believe it.
Relate.
Yeah, I can't believe it took me 2 years to figure out about Twitch and be like, oh, we should be doing this on Twitch.
Yeah.
But I think
Twitch is fun.
2 years ago, it was one of those deals where it's like still very video game heavy. And I mean, it's still very video game heavy. Like
100%.
Every time I go on Twitch, it's like, hey, somebody's streaming Call of Duty. Go watch.
Yep. Go watch.
And I'm like, nah. And so it's still video game heavy, but there's definitely for sure a music community out there, and it's awesome. I really enjoy it. So
the cool thing about Twitch is like, I think so at least their corporate team has realized that music's really been growing, and they've gotten some really cool musicians on there. And so they did this thing, and I was actually a part of it. They're doing this thing now where on that front page, so when you go to like twitch.tv, that immediate first carousel, they started hosting musicians on there to like promote people to watch. And so I was on it for like, I think it was like 8 weeks. They reached out and they're like, hey, we're trying to, feature more musicians on the platform. Do you want to be a part of this? And I was like, yeah, I will get free publicity any time of the day. Like, and so we were on the front page when we did the album release show, and I was like, that is so lucky. Like, that is seriously so lucky.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
But it's cool that they recognize that now. It's like they're really pushing the music thing, and especially with their partnership with Amazon Music, that's become big for them. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah,
really
for sure.
Cool.
For sure. And, back at the beginning of the pandemic, which is something that you were on originally, we had this thing called the jam session.
Yeah.
And where it was basically the podcast, but that you played live music. So it's like, you play a song, we talk about it, and it's really cool. And we started doing that right before the pandemic hit. Like in January, we had recorded a bunch of episodes, and then we started releasing in like February. And then the pandemic hits and we're 6 episodes in, and it's like, well, what do we do? And then we started doing and we reached out doing the virtual live concert. And I think you were one of them.
Yep.
And we had a few other people that did a few virtually. Wasn't the best thing in the world we did, but
it was fun.
It was one of those things where it ended up working, and YouTube got mad at us, like very mad at us.
Really?
Was it YouTube or Facebook? Yeah, one of them got very mad at us about that. I'm like,
interesting.
Oh, that sucks. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting too. I feel like, because I saw a lot of people streaming on like Facebook, and then a lot of people streaming on YouTube. But I think like that's the interesting thing is those platforms weren't like set. Like anytime I saw someone go live on Facebook, I was like, huh. But like, and I feel like it's because those platforms that wasn't expected for the platforms. Like people didn't expect, I'm going to watch someone do stuff live. But I think that's where Twitch kind of had the upper hand, was like the platform was built for that. So then now, and it's like, that is for live content. So now all the other platforms, it's interesting, they're all now trying to pivot and be like, but we also could do live. Like I know TikTok's trying to do a whole live streaming thing, which I feel like out of any of the platforms, I'm like, they would probably be the most successful just because they have that younger crowd. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like Twitch definitely has a leg up, at least right now.
Well, because
it's crazy.
Twitch is pretty much set up at this point where if you want to, you could set it up on your TV and watch it like a regular TV show.
Like a TV show.
Like you can't, I mean, you could probably do it on Facebook, but maybe, but other than that, it's like Twitch, you could put it up on your show and watch it like a TV show, and you're pretty much good to go. Yeah.
I know that like cross device ability with Twitch has been super cool, because all the other apps are really just mobile based. Sorry, my marketing is coming out right now, but like they're usually mobile based, so it's interesting that like but anyway, I can talk about that forever, but
no, it's all good. I do marketing too, so I'm in that world as well. So but going back to the album a little bit, how long or how many, one thing that I've really been interested in talking to musicians about is the songs that didn't make the album. How many songs didn't make the album?
A lot. So I had 11 songs on the album, and then I have like at least 34, maybe 36 originals now that like just didn't fit into the storyline and didn't fit into the style. It was too much of a big like shift.
Yeah.
I mean, the album itself is already really eclectic, so then if you threw in other songs, it was just really not going to fit together.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that just didn't make it on there. And then there's even more originals that I hate that I've written that I never want to see the light of day, but I write them because I need to. And so it's just like, yeah, a lot of them didn't see the light of day, but.
Gotcha. So you write the songs even if you don't like them just to get them out of your head? Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah. And I've definitely, now I've adopted, you know, back when I was first writing songs when I was in middle school or high school, there's a lot of songs I wrote that I just I wrote and then I abandoned them.
Yeah.
Like little poor orphan children songs. Yeah. And like, but now it's like, now I've decided, okay, when I write a song, I'm going to commit to it. And so now I've kind of gotten in this rhythm where I write about a song a month, unless I have crazy inspiration and I end up writing 3, which very rarely happens. But now I write a song a month and I give myself, you know, like a week or 2 to just get the bare bones of it done. And then I just kind of sit with it for a month and just see what it does. You know, and I don't write anything down. I don't record anything. I just kind of let the song settle into whatever it needs to be. So now I definitely write way more songs that I like and that that I just won't abandon. Like all the songs that I've written past college, I've just decided I was going to finish and see through. So now all those I play on Twitch, which is an extra motivation to like, yes, you still need to play these. Like,
yeah. Well, and you always need those songs that are maybe not strictly live songs, but you know, you need to give people a reason to come check out your live streams or check out your live shows. Because if it's like, oh, I'm just going to listen to the album, if I have to decide between going to see your show or eating this week, you know, like, I mean, hopefully it's not that dire, but, you know, going to McDonald's an extra day of the week, you know, that's always interesting is just the album, the songs that didn't make the album and why or why not. But so Manic Pixie Dream Girl out now. You've been working on it for about 2.5 solid years. We'll give it two and a half solid years. When you were sitting down and finally picking songs to record for this, what kind of went into that process? Since you said that you wanted it to be, or that it was already pretty eclectic anyways, and as you listen to it, you'll figure it out pretty quickly how eclectic it is. How did you kind of decide what songs you wanted to record? Yes,
I mean that was a collaborative effort with Jeff, my producer. You know, I basically just played him all the songs that I had written ever, and I was like, all right, how do we make a story out of this? And so the biggest thing that we always asked was, you know, there's 2 main things. It's, you know, stylistically, does it add to this narrative? And then storyline wise, like, does it contribute to this overarching narrative? Because we very quickly realized when I played Manic Pixie Dream Girl, like that was going to be the title track. We just felt it was right. And so we centered the rest of the songs kind of around that title track. Like I think about, you know, when I write a paper, you know, or I can't remember the last time I wrote a paper, but like, you know, when you're writing like a big dissertation, right? And you have your thesis statement and it's like that whole paper could be encapsulated in that one sentence. That's what a title track is to an album. So for us, like Manic Pixie Dream Girl was our thesis statement, like our overall summary. And it's like, okay, what other songs contribute to that? You know, like what's the story before and the rising action and the climax of the album and then the, you know, falling action, you know, how do we fit this around this storyline? And so that's a lot of what it was just figuring out, okay, how can we write a story around this idea? And so there are definitely songs that contributed to it and definitely made a clear connection. Like, oh, this is like the opening scene of the movie. And this song is like the conflict and this really stressful part of the movie. And this is kind of like the ending resolution song. and leading into something else. And so we definitely just try to fit it around there. That was a lot of that process.
Cool. And had you, how long, or what's the oldest song on the album? Oldest. Yeah.
So the oldest song was Ghosts, which I believe is I can't remember which track it is, but I actually wrote Ghosts like back, it was after my freshman year of college, and I basically had to move back to my hometown, and I was heartbroken because I had my first major heartbreak, and I needed to write songs about it. And so I had that song just always on a back burner. Like, it was one of the few songs during that time period I actually enjoyed. And I knew that there's something to it. And so I always just kind of like carried it with me. I didn't think it was going to be on the album. I was like, it's too far back. Like, I don't even think it contributes to the story. But when I played it for Jeff, he actually really liked it, because I'm always way more harsh on my old songs. And he's like, no, there's something here. Like, we gotta do something with this one. It fits. Yeah. So.
And did you, from when you originally wrote it to when you recorded it, did you make any major changes to it, or?
We did definitely simplify the melody. And so, and Jeff kind of helped me with that as well. Just like trying to figure out, okay, how can we get this to be very singable, you know? And so definitely simplify the melody, and then kind of mess with some of the timing of the lyrics to make them a little bit unexpected. I actually had a whole bridge written out during Ghosts of just more lyrics rather than just the line, you are haunting me. But we decided that line itself was just really powerful, and we just decided to make that be the whole section. And so we layered on different harmonies. And so it was interesting too, because that happened with a lot of the songs. Like, I had a lot, especially when you're a solo artist, like, you have a lot going on rhythmically, just trying to fill that space. You have a lot going on lyrically because you have all that time. And then when you get in the studio and you have bands and you have musicians who can take on some of those rhythmic parts and some of those other fills, it allows you the space to like really simplify what I was doing on my guitar part, and then what I was doing vocally. Like, it was mainly just paring it down. Like, okay, you don't have to fill all this space. You don't have to fill all this time because you're not some one woman act in a bar. You know, what can we do with it? And so that was a lot of the editing process was that.
Makes sense. And then obviously you mentioned that you're a solo act, but in the on the album it's essentially a full band. Are you primarily playing a lot of that stuff, or who's helping you record all the?
So all the rhythm guitar parts are mine, and not all the rhythm guitar parts, but the main parts that kind of back the song, those are played by me. And then all the harmonies, except for like one harmony that we actually had Jeff sing, which is in Siren, which no one can tell, very few people can tell, because it sounds like it's just me, but he added it in after I was back home in Boise, and he's like, it just needed it. And I was like, I don't think anyone can tell, it'll be okay. But the harmonies are all me. But then as far as the rest of the song, we had Jordan Fuller playing bass. And a lot of these musicians were from the Seattle area, all kind of like in my age range, playing mostly in indie bands, and some of them also played some jazz. We had Jordan Fuller on bass, Alex Shaw on guitar, Keelan O'Hara on drums, Katie Cuffle. Her name's Katie Cuffle. She came out, she was our cellist. She came out for literally 2 hours, blew us away. I was like, we have 2 songs. Let's see what you can do in 2 hours, like, because that's all we had in the budget. And I was like, just do your thing, do your magic. And she just built these really gorgeous lines. Like, it sounds like a quartet in the album, but it's just her layering track after track, playing along with herself, which is crazy. And then a lot of the synth stuff was played by Andrew, our engineer, who's magical. He can do so many different things in the studio. I think he also might have added some guitar stuff as well. And then we had Jeff actually played a lot of the piano as well, and then sung like one harmony line in Siren. And so, so it is very much a collaborative effort for sure.
That's awesome. It's always good when you have the talent around you to come in and help. And it's not all reliant on you, the producer, and maybe the engineer to recreate this stuff or, you know.
That's 100% it.
when I was listening to the album for the first time, it kind of threw me off because I'm so used to listening to you on your live streams,
Yeah.
where it's just you,
Yep.
and it's like, oh, there's a drum, there's more than just
Yeah.
the vocals and a guitar or mandolin or whatever you happen to be playing for that song. So that was cool. It was different,
Yeah.
but
For sure.
so yeah. But kind of moving forward with the album now that it's out, it's been out for about a little over a week. What's kind of going through your head right now?
I definitely, so I mean, you probably get this because you also work in marketing. Like, so much of my day job is focused on like getting the data, getting the numbers to prove like you were successful and here's all your metrics to prove you're successful. And so it's hard for me not to carry that same need with the music. Like, I'm like, how many people are listening right now, and like what's our viewership like on Twitch, and how many people have downloaded it, and like how much are we making here, and how many times have we been covered. And so I've had to make a very conscious effort to not get focused on that, because then that's when music becomes not art, it becomes like a commodity, like a product. And I'm like, it's not a product, it's art. And like at the end of the day, its success is not going to be dictated by it was downloaded and played this many times. It's going to be how many people connected to it and really, really loved it, and how many stories do I get to hear. And so for me, I've definitely tried to like leading up to the album, definitely spent a lot of time on social media, but I've definitely made a conscious effort to like not spend so much time on social media, because I get into weird comparison games with other artists, and I'm like, I just want to like focus on doing what I love and not compare myself to other people. And so I've made a conscious effort to like just post the stuff that you need to post and get off the app. Like, don't sit there and just scroll and see how awesome other people are doing. Just post your stuff and get over it. And so that's what I've tried to do with myself. And then also just really trying to take time to be really grateful and practice a lot of gratitude. And so, but the coolest thing though has been like getting messages from, especially with people on Twitch, because they've been there when I had no one listening to now. And so hearing little stories of, I was listening to this song at the gym today and it really pumped me up, or even my family and friends, like we rocked out to the entire album and listened to it in the garage of our house because we didn't want to stop, and that was the only CD player we had. And like, and so that's been really cool, is like getting little stories like that has made me just remind myself, like, that's why I did this, not to go viral and be, next whoever the hell. Like, I just want to create good work and to have it help people. And so knowing that it did that is very validating. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I remember back when we first met, I think one of the songs that you played was Not Sorry, because first time I heard that, or when I heard you play it on Twitch, I was like, okay, that song's very familiar. And then I went back and listened to the old streams and I was like, yep, she definitely played that before. And so it's really cool, just like going back, listening to it a year and a half ago and listening to it now. And just, even though it doesn't seem like it's changed all that much, but you've grown as a musician, and just your ability to change over time. Almost, it's pretty interesting to kind of just hear the differences. So
it's crazy. And I even do that with old streams. Like I looked back and I still have clips on Twitch from when I first started streaming, and I look back and I'm like, wow, like the audio quality, the video quality, like my ability to just keep a beat has just changed so drastically, just even in the last bit. It's just wild.
And to kind of change up your setting and your surrounding, because I think when we were first met, you were in probably your living room at your parents' place, I think, right? Or
it was my studio apartment, so I was like curled up in this corner, like crammed next to my couch, very tightly, just trying to play something. Like,
gotcha. So now I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite kid. What's your favorite song to perform off the album?
Oh no. That's so tough. Because I love them all, and I love them all in a different way. It is like picking your favorite kid, because they feel like I don't have kids. I don't even have pets, but I imagine like releasing them is kind of how parents probably feel when their kids move out of the house. Like, you're really worried and you're hoping they're doing okay. And you love them all in a different way. But I'd say it's a tie between Siren and Manic Pixie Dream Girl, which I feel like is good. Like, I've narrowed it down to two. But Manic Pixie Dream Girl, I mean, I love playing that one because that's the one that everyone knows on the stream. Like, people know the lyrics, you know, and it gets everyone pumped up. And then, you know, on stream, I do the whole like sing along version where people can put in their own ideas for the last line. And it's a fun song. It's definitely, you know, it stands out on the album. It's got this 80s, you know, new wave, Tears for Fears, Duran Duran-esque vibe. So it feels very nostalgic. Like, it feels like something that would have been played in a John Hughes movie. You know, and so I love it for that reason. But then I also love Siren because I feel like there's something that happens with Siren when I do play it, you know, especially in a live setting, like in a real, you know, like bar, like not just on stream. Like, I was at an open mic night in Seattle like a couple weeks back, and I played that song, and I noticed there was like a definite shift in the room. Like, people turned around, like people quieted down. And so I always love playing that one because I feel like it's like my secret one that I can like whip out and be like, ha, like, because it's very different from the rest of the album, and that's why we made it last in the lineup, because it was just nothing could really follow it afterwards. Like, it had to end with that one because I feel like it was kind of the next chapter. And so I love playing that one for just that reason. But
nice. And you know, the album top to bottom's really good. So if anybody out there is listening, hasn't listened to it, make sure you go check it out on Spotify. Or are you still selling hard copies, or was that just
so I'm still selling hard copies on nextmusic.com. Basically, you just go nextmusic.com, click shop, and then you can click on mine. And we'll be selling those for, you know, forever. I think we're still selling signed ones too. And then I'm also on Amazon Music, Apple Music. I'm apparently also on YouTube, so that's cool. I guess that was part of the distribution thing. And Bandcamp as well. And then obviously Spotify.
Are you on Napster? I hear Napster's the big one, or not the big one. Like, supposedly, that's always like the throw-in one when you go sign these distribution deals.
I bet it's on Napster.
You get like Spotify, iTunes, and then they have a couple of the throw-in ones where it's like Napster and maybe Deezer or something.
Deezer. I know it's on Pandora as well. iHeartRadio. The usual ones. Yeah,
for sure. But, you know, every time somebody brings up Napster, it's like, man, those were the days. It's interesting. But given now that the industry that we're in, it's like, I still miss Napster so much.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, that's awesome. So kind of, you said that Siren was kind of like that song that alludes to the next chapter. Obviously, it's too early to be talking about another album, but are you actively writing right now, or where are you kind of at creatively?
Yeah, so definitely still writing. And I think it's just because it's become so much of a daily rhythm for me to like write and to practice. So that's still definitely something I'm doing. But yeah, definitely, you know, it depends on how well this album does and if we make enough money to do a next one, or maybe we launch another crowdfund and just do the same thing. But I definitely want to release another one, especially because, you know, I have 24 other originals that don't have a home yet. So I was like, well, at least like right now we have enough for another one. So I definitely would love to continue the process if I have the means and the opportunities to do so. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, that's always the hope, is to keep the recording process going. And as the pandemic seems to maybe be subsiding, I hope. I don't know.
Hopefully. You never know. We always say that, and then like another variant comes up, or like city shut down. It's cool.
It's wild. It's so wild. How's the like, obviously you mentioned you're still streaming on Twitch 3 to 4 times a week, but what's the live shows?
Live shows, I haven't done much. Seattle's in a very weird spot pandemic wise, so it's It's definitely harder to get shows than it has been. But I've heard from a lot of artists here that the way to do it and the way to make connections is just go to open mic nights. And there's like a handful of them that everyone goes to. And so just making connections there. Cause I mean, yeah, you're in tight competition right now because there's few venues that are doing shows. And then, you still have all the artists here who are needing to make a living. So you're competing a lot against a lot of people. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on Twitch because that's pretty solid, and then keep going to open mic nights and make connections and just be like, hey, if you need an opener, like, I'm here, I got you. Like, and just, that's what I did in Boise, and I was like, I'll just do the same thing,
Yeah, just keep making your connections, and one day somebody will be like, hey, I need a opener. Or I need somebody to fill 2 hours, or, whatever it is. So that's, especially when you've got the Twitch thing that's going really well, and then you're not a full-time musician, right? You're still working on the...
Yeah, still got a daytime job for sure.
And the fact that you have that, it's like, I'm sure you'd love to be doing music full-time, but at the moment you're not exactly hurting. I'm doing okay. But then again, I'm sure Seattle's not cheap to live in either.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
I don't regret not moving there back like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely, things have gotten better. I mean, it's funny too, because everyone's like, oh, Seattle's so expensive. But then I think back to Boise, and Boise got crazy expensive the last year I was there. Like, houses now in Boise, or at least $500K plus starting out, doesn't matter where you're at in town. Apartments, rent is, if you're looking for a 1-bedroom, it's anywhere from $1,000 a month to $1,500 plus, depending on where you're at. So it's like, when I was looking at it, because I knew eventually I was going to have to move out of the studio apartment, because again, it was my parents' property. They cut me a deal. I was like, cool. And, so I knew I was going to have to move out eventually to, be a fully formed adult. But it just, I was looking around, I was like, that's garbage prices. I was like, I might as well move to Seattle if it's going to be the same. Like, and try out a new city and a place with more of a music scene, So it's,
How far of a drive is it from Boise to Seattle?
It's about 7.5 hours.
Okay, not bad.
So, I mean, you can definitely do it as a weekend trip. Flights round trip, you can usually sometimes score like a round trip flight from anywhere from $120 to $150.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, that's almost as much as I'd spend on gas, like both ways. So I definitely come home as much as I can, because it's not that hard.
No, it really isn't. And, Boise's a pretty big enough city that, you can get to pretty easily. It's not like you're in, name any small city with a regional airport where you got to take like American Eagle. You got to take American Eagle or something. So it's... I understand. Like, when I lived out in Roswell, that's how it was. Just to go see my parents or my family for anything, I had to take American Eagle out of Roswell to Dallas.
What?
And then Dallas to, if I was going up to Chicago or down to Florida, wherever I was going,
Yeah.
And usually the layover time in Dallas was like 45 minutes. So I only had 45 minutes to get from like Terminal 5 to Terminal 2. And it's like...
it's tight.
Oh, it was tight all the way around. And it was just like, I'm good. I think... And then I just started driving everywhere.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Cool. So kind of outside of music, now that you've got the album out and you're doing really well on the Twitch streams, and what does Taryn do when you need to like decompress, get away from work, get away from Twitch, music, all that stuff?
It's sad because like my decompression is still to just play. But it's so I definitely play music to just process. There's a lot of times I spend down here just by myself, not live streaming or anything, just to jam out and practice. Learning new songs or just writing, that's a big thing. Outside of that, I also really big into like hiking and being outside. And so and Seattle's gorgeous because it has so many beautiful parks. And so this last weekend, my boyfriend and I drove out to, it's like some beach just down the way, like down in like Ballard, and we just got to walk out there and be near the water, see the mountains. It was actually sunny, which was crazy. And then there's, again, like so many parks nearby. So I just love going for walks. That's my biggest thing. If I can go for a walk and like listen to music while I'm walking, that's huge. I also love to work out. I work out at it's called Orange Theory Fitness.
Yep.
And they got a couple different gyms all over Seattle, and they had some in Idaho too. So definitely go to that, and just release all my energy. And it's like, it's a cheesy, well, it's not cheesy, it's actually a lot of fun, but it's like a high interval intensity training workout. So you do like crazy fast things on one station, and then you like run over to the next station and do other crazy stuff.
So it's almost like cross training type.
Yeah, like cross training. So then that's been good. And then obviously I'm very close with my family. And then I've made like a handful of friends in Seattle that I get to hang out with and go get brunch. And honestly, it's crazy because I think about it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, even if you just had 3 solid friends you hung out with, that's still a lot of people. So that's me outside of music and outside of the job, is just being outside, working out, and hanging out with friends.
Nice. Hey, that's more than I do. I literally sit in front of my TV playing PlayStation 2 for hours on end. And I hate myself because that's just like a new thing I started doing. Because I don't know, I found a game sitting over in the corner the other day, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go play this. And now it's like every night before I go to bed, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play a game and I'm good. And then I end up staying up for 4.5 hours, and it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, damn it, I gotta be up at 8 to go to work now. And so I hate.
My boyfriend's a big gamer. Well, I wouldn't say big gamer, but he definitely, games. A lot of guys game. And so he got recently into, what was it called? Skyrim? Yeah. And it's beautiful. And so I actually really love watching him play it because I'm like, it's like I'm exploring this other place. And so I finally, especially because on Twitch, I see so many people who are into gaming and I'm like, I don't understand. But then now I'm like, I actually kind of get it. I'm like, I see how that would be very relaxing. Like I actually want to get into it, but we'll see.
Yep. And then this morning I had the idea, it's like, with as much as I've been playing lately, I need to bring out, I've got a spare TV that I don't use. Yeah. I need to drop it right here next to my computer and hook it up and then just stream on Twitch. And it's like, I'm already playing for 4.5 hours, so
why
not
as well stream?
Why not? So I got the technology. I tried to do it when I was living in Florida there for a while. Yeah. And like I had an old Super Nintendo, and it just got repetitive because I only had like 4 games, and it's like there's only so many times I could play Mario Kart before it just kind of like, all right, cool. So
for sure.
Anyways. But it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Before we go, I have a random question generator sitting right in front of me. So, if you are ready, if it will open, there it goes. I have your question for you.
Okay.
Out of everyone you know, who could you go the longest with in a car trip?
Oh, okay. This is tough. I would definitely say part of me wants to say people from my family, but we've definitely been on long road trips and we all wanted to kill each other by the end of it. I have this like ongoing joke with one of my college friends that the times that she's questioned our friendship the most was on a road trip. Yeah. So I'd say like I feel like I don't road trip well because I get hangry and I get tired. But I'd say out of anyone, it would definitely probably have to be my boyfriend because he's the only one who can put up with me in that kind of situation. It also helps that we had known each other for 10 years before getting together. So I was like, well, you've seen all of it, so can't get much worse. Like,
for sure. That's the random question generator for you.
Nice.
I don't know why it said road trip right in front of me, but for whatever reason that didn't make sense in my head, and I'm like, yes, it did. You're just an idiot. So anyways, if anybody wants to check out the album, want to check you out on Twitch, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah. So on all the music streaming platforms, I'm under Taryn Hadfield. It's Taryn Hadfield, HAD's and David, FIELD. And so I'm on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Bandcamp. Those are pretty much the main 4, I would guess. And so feel free in Spotify, obviously. So if you do a quick search, I'll be there because there's very few Taryn Hadfields, which I look down in that department. Yeah. On Twitch, I go by Taryn Seattle. And now it's been too long for me to have that username to switch it back to Taryn Hadfield. So I think I'm just going to stick with it.
Double down and own it.
Double down. And I feel like I grew so much and I was like, it's too late to change it now. Like it's too late. So Taryn Seattle, just exactly what it sounds like. And I stream Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. So that would be 7:30 Mountain, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. I've gotten really used to saying that. But I stream on there for anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours. And on there I play originals and covers. And sometimes we do Friday streams. But those are the usual times. Those are places. And then I have obviously Facebook and Instagram. And they're both under Taryn Hadfield. So try to make it as easy as possible for people to find me. So...
Nice. Yeah. And then on your Twitch streams, you also do live learns, which is a really cool thing.
It's been fun.
What was the hardest song you had to try and learn live on Twitch?
Oh God, there's so many. There's so many songs that I feel like people stop.
Or what was the most random song?
Most random song? What was it called? We did Hot Stuff. And it's this old 70s disco tune. I don't know who it's by, but... And then everyone really liked it. They're like, you have to add it onto the song list. And I had it added for a little bit, and then I took it off. I eventually took it off. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Can't do it. Was it one of those songs that people were going to search for every time you were online?
It was, I think there was just like 2 culprits in the stream who were like, we want her to play this all the time. And then I got really sick of it. And I was like, you guys need to stop. Like, this is not my thing. And so... Yeah, I don't do 70s disco. Well, I can do 70s rock, like no problem. But but that anything that's R&B. Oh, the other song that I did that was terrible was it was Mariah Carey's. It was during Christmas. It was Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." And I was garbage. I was literally garbage at the song. My pitch was awful. I couldn't get any of the timing right. I just don't sing R&B. I'm just bad at singing R&B. I'll admit it.
Gotcha. I will say though, my favorite is when you do the Pokemon theme song.
Yeah, that's a crowd favorite, and I didn't watch much Pokemon growing up, so I'm stoked that people like it. Like
I think the reason I like it is it's just such a random song that you don't see a lot of people doing, or anybody doing really. But it's just different. Like, especially when you start watching a lot of streamers and it's like, oh, okay, everybody can play like the same 20, like there's a set of 20 songs that almost everyone plays as far as covers. And then once you start digging deeper and you see, oh, she does this or these covers, that's really cool. And then you just start digging in deeper. And I think that's where kind of the Pokemon theme song sits. So I really dig it. But once again, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us. This was our 3rd stream on Twitch. We're getting somewhere. We're making it work. And as the year goes on, we'll start doing different things. It'll be the podcast and a couple other things that we're working on. So really excited about it. Glad that I woke up and said, hey, Twitch sounds like a great idea. So really excited. And I do want to thank you for being one of the first musicians to be like,
totally,
hey, Twitch, that's a good idea. So, But anyways, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.